and bring in Neale Richmond from Dublin. Andrew Bridgen here saying, look, there is the basis for a flexible arrangement which would be acceptable to British MPs. What do you say to that?
Well, I think Mr Bridgen's quoting an out-of-context report that was from quite some time ago. It went before the joint declaration of the European Union and the United Kingdom that we saw in December 17, and it missed the whole point of the negotiations that came thereafter. And what we have with the withdrawal agreement, including the backstop, is a solution that allows the UK to leave the EU seamlessly, but also allows the EU and the UK as a whole to negotiate a new relationship, a customs regulatory relationship, including a free trade deal that will keep both entities so close without hardening the border on the island of Ireland, but equally without hardening the border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That's what we want to move on to. If there are alternative arrangements out there, we're open to them. The backstop, the protocol for Northern Ireland includes that. However, we need that insurance policy of the backstop so we can negotiate in good faith through this transition period and work to get the closest possible EU-UK relationship post-Brexit.
Andrew Bridgen.
Well, I think that the withdrawal agreement was heavily slanted in favour of the European Union. The Prime Minister should never have agreed to it. It was never going to get through Parliament. It hasn't got through 3 times.
What do you mean it was slanted in favour of the European Union? I thought the backstop was something that was actually sought by the British side.
Well, the whole withdrawal agreement bill was drawn up by the European Union. It's drawn up in Brussels and given to the Prime Minister as a fait accompli. But it was never going to get through Parliament. It never has, and it was never popular with the populace. 15% support in the country for a flagship policy. I think the withdrawal agreement is finished. I can't see it coming back in any form whatsoever. We need now to move forward with pragmatic solutions. And it's interesting that the European Union have now announced and made public that they're looking at these alternative arrangements for the border, which they claimed didn't exist only a few months ago.
Senator Richmond.
Well, the European Union, and if actually Angie was to read the withdrawal agreement, you'd see under the Irish protocol that alternative arrangements are allowed for if a trade deal and a customs agreement can't be reached. But what we've consistently said is no alternative arrangements have been presented. There's none in existence anywhere in the world, and we've seen none to be shown that could actually work. We will look at those, but for the UK to leave and for us to have a withdrawal agreement, we also need the legal guarantee of the backstop. And to suggest somehow that this was drafted by the European Commission completely misses the point. The withdrawal agreement was a product of 18 months of tortuous negotiation between the British and European negotiating teams. What Mr Bridgen and his cohorts promised through the referendum were completely impossible and completely, I suppose, just forgets the responsibilities of the British government to the Good Friday Agreement, something that is a co-guarantor of and something that is at the core of the withdrawal agreement.
I mean, it has to be said that there are those, and the latest person is the historian Lord Bew, actually saying that the role of the Good Friday Agreement and its compatibility with withdrawing from the EU has been exaggerated.
Well, that's one opinion. Indeed, Lord Bew and Lord Trimble have threatened to challenge that at the courts, but that case has been put aside. And if we look at the opinion of Mark Durkan, the former MP, former Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, who helped negotiate the Good Friday Agreement beside Lord Bew, he has completely contradicted their evidence. What the withdrawal agreement and the backstop does, it provides that insurance policy for the Good Friday Agreement, allows for all those things under Strand 2 of the Good Friday Agreement that allow for seamless North-South cooperation to continue in the post-Brexit realm. But ultimately, and it's very important to remember this, Adam, we don't actually ever want to see the backstop come into play. It is an insurance policy. We want that deeping, meaningful trade, customs and regulatory agreement between the EU and the UK as a whole. And that's what we can achieve. And we need to move away from all the unicorns and fantasies and get down to negotiate the next step of Brexit. I think we owe that to the British, Irish and European people as a whole.
I mean, Andrew Bridgen, the fact of the matter is, if you look at the YouGov poll, Conservative voters would, they wouldn't mind too much if there ends up being a border in Northern Ireland because they're quite happy to lose Northern Ireland as the price of Brexit.
No, we're the Conservative and Unionist Party, and all parts to the negotiations have said there will be no hard border.
To get Brexit, you're happy to lose Northern Ireland,
not at all.
Scotland.
And anyone who reads the withdrawal agreement, the backstop and the future protocol will realise that they are actually in breach of the Good Friday Agreement because they would change the constitutional situation in Northern Ireland relative to the UK without the agreement of people in Northern Ireland, and that is a breach of the Good Friday Agreement for sure.
Senator Richmond.
Over 60% of people in Northern Ireland at the recent European elections backed people who backed an orderly way, but we can only achieve that and move on to the next stage with the passing of this withdrawal agreement. Constantly trying to attack the people who draft it or drawing up things distracts from the very real responsibilities we have as legislators and public representatives to protect the people, and ultimately the British government and the Irish government as co-guarantors of that Good Friday Agreement have to put that paramount.
Andrew Bridgen, what is the change you need that would make you back the withdrawal agreement under the new Prime Minister?
Well, it's interesting. The only motion that actually got a majority in the House of Commons was to go back and remove the backstop from the withdrawal agreement. For me personally, that wouldn't be enough. There are many more articles within it that I think are far too restrictive, and it doesn't deliver the Brexit that we promised the British people, or what's in the interests of our democracy and our economy moving forward. And it would hamstring any future Prime Minister in future negotiations with the European Union.
OK, Senator Richmond and Andrew Bridgen, thank you both very much.